What is up, everyone? Welcome to the FAA podcast. I know we're doing the NFC North season preview today, but I had to wear it. My new Bryce Young jersey, super hyped that I got that this weekend. Um, but we had an awesome weekend of football, USFL Week 10, last week of the regular season. The last three playoff spots were locked in. Um, and we had some great games as well, especially on Sunday. We got some NFL stuff to talk about, and then we'll jump right into the NFC North season preview. I know all the Packers fans up here are super hyped to listen to what we got to say. But let's start off with the USFL Week 10 Maulers clinching a playoff spot, 26-6 destruction of the Generals. Troy Williams was excellent, 17 of 25, 68%, 154 yards, one touchdown, 6 carries for 40 yards. He led the, or no, my bad. I was going to say he led the game in rushing, but was not the case. DeAndre Johnson played super bad. It was weird. The Maulers defense was just outstanding in this one. 12 of 27 for Johnson, 44.4%, 137 yards, 2 picks, 12 carries, 68 yards, and a fumble. You had Garrett Groshek leading the game in rushing for Pittsburgh, 12 carries, 53 yards. Probably his best average all season, I would have to think. Darius Victor also over 5 yards per carry, but only 9 carries, 11 total touches. Was tough to see in a game that you lose by 20 points. You would have thought that they would have got their number one option on their offense, the ball a lot more in a playoff scenario. Madre London scored his first touchdown of the season. And you had Kingston Davis leading the game and receiving for New Jersey as a backup running back. Just 1 carry for 5 yards, but 3 catches for 42 yards. Pittsburgh wide receiver Isaiah Henney led the game in receiving, 6 receptions, 48 yards, and a touchdown on his 6 targets. Also threw a ball that was incomplete. Defensively, have to go with Maulers. Defensive back Eli Walker, 4 tackles, 2 solos, 1 fumble recovery, and it was returned 46 yards to the house. So yeah, excellent game for Eli Walker there. Maulers plus 3.5. They win outright under 40.5 hit. I had that under in this one. The second game on Saturday, the Stallions continue to dominate 27-20 over my Memphis Showboats, who weren't probably going to make it anyways. But regardless, they could have tried to win and then hoped. They did not win, though. 5-5 on the year. Pretty solid season from Todd Haley's crew, though, after starting 0-3. Alex Magoo, definitely the MVP at this point. 22 of 33, 66.7%, 282 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 7 carries, 32 yards. Cole Kelly, it was a tough day for him. 20 of 30, 66.7%, 154 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Nothing rushing to speak about. He did convert a couple 4th downs, but it was a tough day for the Memphis offense most of the day anyways. They did put up a good fight against the best team in the league by far. Ezra Gray had himself quite a day for the Showboats, leading the game in rushing. 16 carries, 82 yards, 2 catches for 11 yards. Excellent end to the season for Gray. Had only had 1 carry prior to this game, so great day for him. CJ Marable for the Stallions, he scored 10 10 carries, 56 yards, 1 touchdown, and a fumble. 1 catch for 4 yards as well. Stallions passing offense was electric in this game. Davion Davis over 100 yards, 9 catches, 114 yards on 11 targets. You had tight end Jay Sternberger, 4 catches, 84 yards, a touchdown on 5 targets and a fumble. Pretty solid timing for Sternberger to have a good game when we're talking about the team that drafted him a couple years ago in the Packers today. And then you had Deion Kane, who had a touchdown as well. 5 catches, 42 yards, a touchdown on 8 targets. The electric man himself for the Boats, Derek Dillon, had another electric play in this game. 5 catches, 38 yards on 9 targets on offense, but on special teams, again, lit it up. 90-yard kick return touchdown to open the game. So excellent day for him. Again, should make an NFL team. And then wide receiver Vinny Papali got a touchdown, 2 catches, 8 yards, a touchdown on 4 targets. Defensively, I'm going to go with the winning side here. Birmingham corner Nate Brooks, 4 tackles, all of them solos, 1 pick, and 2 pass deflections. Stallions, -4. They win outright over 43.5 hits. Was happy to not take anything in that game because that was those were some tough lines. The Breakers on Sunday, they clinched their spot in the South Division Championship, 17-10 over the Gamblers. Tough game, to say the least, for both sides. Defensive one, kind of the opposite of the week 2 matchup where both sides scored 30+ and the Breakers won. But Kenji Bahar played really well. 21 of 30, 70%, 231 yards, 3 carries, 12 yards. McLeod Bethel Thompson, of course, always plays well. 23 of 31, 74.2%, 227 yards, 2 touchdowns. Montel Cozart also got in the game at a couple questionable times for this Gamblers offense. 0 of 2, 1 pick for Cozart. It was just a weird timing both times he got in the game. So, yeah, bad coaching on the Gamblers' part. But what's up, Logan? How you doing?
Hey, dude, how you doing?
Good, man.
Nice.
I got
loving the jersey.
The new jersey on, even though we're talking NFC North, but it's all right.
Nice.
Had to wear it. Mark Thompson scored once again for his league-leading 14th rushing touchdown on the season. 19 carries, 84 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches for 10 yards. West Hills struggled mightily. The Breakers really could not run the ball at all. 9 carries, 20 yards, 5 catches, 40 yards on 5 targets. Good receiving day for Hills, though. Johnny Dixon led the game in receiving for the Breakers. 3 catches, 60 yards, a touchdown on 7 targets. His running mate there, D. Anderson, also catching a touchdown on his only target. 4-yard touchdown reception there. And defensively, have to go with the man himself. Linebacker Vontae Diggs, 9 tackles, 6 solos, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, a pick, and a pass deflection. He has been a stud this season and a new dad. So he had a nice Father's Day with a playoff clinching win there. The Breakers covered -3.5, under 44.5 hit. Luckily, I bet that live, so I was happy to cash the under in this one. And finally, the Michigan Panthers in a stunner, 23-20 over the Stars. They clinched the other spot in the North Division Championship against your Pittsburgh Maulers, Logan, that got the win for you, your lone wolf.
Yes, sir.
But Case Cook has played well, especially in the first half. First half was all Philly, 24 of 44, 54.5%, 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7 carries for 48 yards. His legs were prevalent on this game here. EJ Perry's second half, though, was fantastic. 12 of 23, 52.2%, 121 yards, 10 carries, 48 yards, a touchdown. His rushing touchdown, I believe, was the score that put them up. I can't remember if it was that or the blocked punt return for a touchdown. But it was crazy. 20-6 this game was for Philly. And it went into halftime, I believe. I think it was 13 to, or no, it went into halftime 20-9 or 20-6, maybe. I don't remember. But anyways, second half shutout from the Panthers defense. And the play of EJ Perry just continuing to improve throughout the game was something crazy to see. Yeah, it was 20-6 a half. So it was just ridiculous what the Panthers defense was able to do to stop this Stars offense. Now, there were some caveats to that, though. Corey Coleman got injured for the Stars, the leading receiver in the league. Got injured. He was eating them up. And even when he wasn't getting the ball in the first half, he was making coverage go towards him, opening other guys up like Devin Gray, who had a big day. But he got hurt. And then there was also someone else that got hurt. I can't remember. I think Dexter Williams got hurt. Their starting running back as well. So two big injuries on offense that really limited what the Stars could do in the second half. But also the special teams was fantastic for Michigan. Blocked punt, Cole Murphy hit 3 of 4 field goals, and they had a couple really long returns on punts and kickoffs. So it was a total team effort in this one, with a guy that literally just got signed a couple weeks ago and was starting his first game of the season in a winner-go-home game. Reggie Corbin, though, led the game in rushing outside of the two quarterbacks, 12 carries, 24 yards, one reception for 9 yards. There wasn't a lot of room in the ground game on this game here. But I mentioned Devin Gray for the Stars. He led the game in receiving, 9 catches, 62 yards on 14 targets, big workload, especially, like I said, after Coleman went out. Terry Wright caught a touchdown in the first half for Philly, 6 catches, 57 yards, a score on 8 targets. And then DeAndre Overton, the other touchdown from Cookus, a 29-yard strike on 4 targets. My defensive player of the game is the man that leads the USFL in tackles, Frank Ginda. 12 tackles, 6 solos, 1 pass deflection. I don't know what the exact solo numbers are for him because I just keep track of total tackles, assists, plus solos. And he went over 100 tackles in this game on the year, 106 in 10 games. So that's pretty solid there.
Mm-hmm.
The Panthers plus 1.5. They went outright. I lost some money on this one. I had the Stars as heavy favorites with the new quarterback. I thought they were going to win easily, and it looked like they were when it was 20-6. But I also did have the over 42.5 by the hook. Love to see that. Thank you, Panthers, for scoring that. Even though at the bottom there, got to mention, unfortunately, Luis Aguilar missed his one miss of the day, cost him. That's how it goes. 2 of 3, 53 long. He missed a 50-yarder that was a low line drive, hit the crossbar, and went out. So, yeah, that was tough to watch when we didn't know it was going to be the tying points at the time. It was for the Stars to go up 23-16 or 23-15 because the Panthers got a 2-point conversion later. But yeah, it would have been 23-15 there. And then, matters though. Kickers got to make your field goals. All right. Let's go to college news here. Just one thing. There's a NCAA committee that wants marijuana dropped from the banned drug list, apparently. I didn't read much into this. I have strong-ish feelings about this topic. I don't know. I think it's dumb. But that's just me.
You think it's dumb that it's on the ban list, or that it's
that they want to get it taken off?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm okay with it in legal states.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to have an overarching thing that covers everyone. So even if that's what the NFL is. The NFL doesn't care if you're in a legal state. It's banned.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting too, because then if you talk about how would that affect, competitive advantages if you did it's not allowed in states where it's not legal. It's allowed in states where it's legal. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna go on a tangent about my feelings about weed.
Oh, Mary Jane.
But yeah. All right, XFL news. So we mentioned on Friday we had the XFL rookie draft. Well, now we have XFL undrafted free agency that occurred. 44 players' rights were claimed by teams today, and there's some good ones. Houston especially got some solid players. Two, I think that I'll talk about with you. Yeah, the two guys I want to talk about for the Roughnecks, UCF running back Isaiah Bowser, awesome pounder in the middle. Doesn't give you a lot receiving wise, but can definitely be a goal line type back and a bruiser. Maybe even convert to fullback because he is that big. I don't know exactly how big. I'm probably overhyping how big he is, but he's a solid in between the tackles running back, a straight downhill guy. So I liked him. And then Cody Crest, Sam Houston State wide receiver. Houston always needs receivers. They run that spread. So they run 4 wide most of the time. So Cody Crest, going from Sam Houston State, which also runs a similar system, I think will be great in that offense if he ends up playing there in 2024. And then there was also a couple other guys that I had seen. Oh, Seattle. The Sea Dragons getting a couple guys here. Dylan Doyle, linebacker from Baylor, fullback / linebacker. He can do both. But excellent linebacker. I think he's a little undersized. I think that is why his NFL. Oh, no, he's fine. 6'3", 240. Definitely good. But yeah, Seattle, that's a solid selection there, or signee. And then also they got a quarterback. So more than likely, Ben DiNucci's not coming back in 2024, right? He'll be in the NFL this year. Unless he doesn't work out in the NFL in 23, then he can go back to XFL in 24. But they did get a quarterback, did Seattle. N'Kosi Perry, FAU. Miami transfer to FAU there. Dual threat all day. Needs a lot of work, though, in his mechanics and the passing game. So I think they'll get that righted there in Seattle, hopefully for him, and get some more development on his shoulders. And then I think that was, one more guy. Trey Cobb, linebacker, Appalachian State, the Vegas Vipers claimed his rights there. So Vegas team needing defensive help, more in the secondary, I think, and the pass rush. But Trey Cobb, excellent linebacker out of App State there. You have any thoughts on those guys?
No, yeah. The only guy that I remember is Isaiah Bowser, who I think is going to be a very good back. Because, I mean, the combination of speed and power, I don't know, it jumped out at me in the games that I watched. I watched a few from his time in Northwestern. I watched a couple with his time at UCF. So, yeah.
All right. NFL news. So we did find out the initial thoughts or diagnosis of the cause of death for Ray Lewis III. Suspected overdose is what they're saying. So it made sense now what his brother posted with, how the struggle is finally over. He can stop hurting. So sad situation, but at least now we have some clarity on what actually happened.
Yeah.
Patriots cornerback Jack Jones arrested at the airport on weapons charges. He just posted bail today, $30,000. And his trial date is the Patriots' second preseason game, August 18th, where he pleaded no guilty, I guess, already. So they just have the sentencing, I guess, on August 18th. But 2 counts of possession of a concealed weapon in a secure area of the airport. That's a long one. Possession of ammunition without a firearm identification card. Unlawful possession of a firearm, carrying a loaded firearm, and possession of a large capacity feeding device. Fantastic. Jack Jones doing it right.
Look, if you're going to get busted for it, might as well go all out, right?
Yeah. It's just stupid. Like, how dumb do you have to be to carry a gun in your luggage? Like, without a registration and with it loaded.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, and it's like, it's just common sense. Like, I don't know. There's no ways about it. Like, there's no way you could like accidentally get confused about. I don't know.
And it's not like it was one. He had 2 loaded guns
Right.
in his bed. Like, but this isn't the first issue that Jack Jones has had. He got suspended by the team late in the season last year for violation of team rules. Bill Belichick said everything's good now. And then this comes out. So he's having some issues in his.
Well, he was starting games for them too last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, as a 4th round pick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, the NFL today sent out a kind of betting cheat sheet. It's the 6 rules to follow for all NFL players. They are: don't bet on the NFL. Don't gamble at your team facility while traveling for a road game or staying at a team hotel. Don't have someone bet for you. Don't share team inside information. Don't enter a sports book during the NFL playing season. That one's kind of crazy, but I get it. And don't play daily fantasy football. So they can play season long. They can't play FanDuel or DraftKings. I wonder if that counts though. If they play if they draft a best ball season long on DraftKings or FanDuel.
Yeah.
Because you can't set the lineups for those. It's just you know. But those are the 6 rules, and they even had clarifications on rules 1 and 2. So don't bet on the NFL is rule 1. Just remember. And the clarification for that one is don't ever bet on any NFL game, not even $1. Your team's games, another team's games, outcome, points scored, parlay, prop, future bets on the NFL. It includes all NFL events such as the NFL Draft, Combine, Pro Bowl, NFL flag events, NFL honors.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I think I mentioned. Like they almost need a cheat sheet, a couple weeks ago on the pod, because there just seemed to be some confusion about the policies. So yeah. But I mean, this all feels pretty straightforward, I guess. I mean, it can get a little technical. I could maybe understand where someone slips up, and the NFL draws a hard line because they don't want to seem, like the games are being fixed at all, even if it's, not players betting on their own games or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that
I'll give you the clarification on rule number 2.
Sure.
Don't gamble at work, including from your phone. Don't bet on anything when at your team's facility or stadium, including the parking lot, on a team road trip, team plane, bus, car, team hotel, on other team business. In summary, don't bet on anything while at work.
Yeah. I think the bottom line TLDR of this is like, don't bet on anything NFL, and don't bet at team facilities or during team activities.
Yeah, just bet at your house.
Right, like yeah, bet on your own time. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, just bet at your house. Bet at the bar, as long as you're not, well, yeah. But it says on a team road trip. So if you're having dinner in an away game, that's the team road trip, so you can't bet when you're on an away game. That's how I see it anyways. But yeah. It was nice of them to put that out there for all the players. After they already suspended a couple guys. And are about to suspend another one, and Isaiah Rodgers. Couple more XFL to NFL. These guys got signed, not invited to camp because mandatory mini camp is over. But a couple guys got signed. The Falcons, they signed defenders wide receiver Chris Blair. Giants signed Brahma's defensive lineman Kobe Smith. And the Steelers, they signed Brahma's long snapper Rex Sunahara. I think Blair's got a good shot in Atlanta. They don't have much behind Drake London. So could possibly be an option there. Kobe Smith, I'm not sure. Giants have a decent front, so not sure if he's going to make it. And I am unsure of the Steelers' long snapper situation, so I don't know if Rex will be the guy or not. And we also have some NFL signings, free agency. The Rams welcoming a familiar face back. Luckily for him, he's just got to go across the facility. They signed Chargers running back Sony Michel. So hopefully he stayed in LA after he wasn't re-signed by the Chargers, and he just gets to stay in LA and go back to the Rams, where he had a lot of success. And the Steelers, they signed Falcons linebacker Nick Kwiatkowski. I like it. Quit has been a solid linebacker throughout his career, and Steelers needed off-ball linebacker help anyways, so I like the signing. All right, let's get into the NFC North season preview. So these are the 4 pictures that I put up that will make or break this division this year. First off, of course, it's Justin Fields. Will he progress? This is year 3, right?
Yep. The critical year.
Right. So, and they did a lot around him. So we'll see. That's the big question in Chicago is can he finally put it together? The Lions was hard. So that picture is supposed to represent the Lions defense as a whole. Lions defense, that was their issue last year. That's why they didn't make the playoffs. Because they could score a lot on offense, but they got scored on a lot as well. So has Aaron Glenn, can he get this defense with some new pieces? Jack Campbell, one of the first-round picks there, can he get that unit to be just, even if they get them to the middle of the pack, I think that would be enough to push the Lions possibly into the playoffs. Of course, Green Bay, it's Jordan Love. What is he? What can he do? No one knows. So that's the biggest question here in Wisconsin. And then the Vikings was also a difficult one. I wasn't really sure who to put. So I just put Alexander Madison stepping into the starting running back role. Will he be able to be the guy? Will he be able to produce 1,000-yard after 1,000-yard season like Dalvin Cook did?
Yeah. I agree with these. I think, for the Lions, I think I'd say definitely defense, but also definitely the spine of the defense, like the middle positions, because I think that's where they're weakest, Last year they struggled at IDL outside of Aleem McNeil. They needed to up their linebacking core. They invested in Jack Campbell. And I think a lot of their success will depend on how ready he is to contribute. I think he is. He was one of those prospects that was billed as kind of a plug-and-play guy. He's an Iowa guy. So I think he'll be ready, but it remains to be seen, Definitely JL for the Packers. I mean, there's nobody else you'd really point to. I don't think. Some other guys that come to mind is kind of, maybe Bakhtiari, if he can stay healthy. That'll be a big storyline to make sure that the OL stays good. But yeah, I mean, it's all what can Jordan Love do with hopefully a full season of work and how that turns out. The Vikings are an interesting one, and I think you could put for the Vikings, the entire defense as well, based at least in part on their wild card round performance. I think especially with the addition of Jordan Addison, I think this offense, talent wise, you could make an argument for top 5. I mean, they got some dudes on that roster, but it's can the defense be strong enough to get the ball back to that O? So yeah.
Right. Well, we're gonna start with the Bears. Unfortunately, our guy Joe couldn't make it today, but his Chicago Bears here re-signings. They didn't re-sign a lot. I mean, they didn't really have a lot to re-sign, but they re-signed quarterback Nathan Peterman, wide receiver Dante Pettis, and a long snapper Patrick Scales. That was it. They did a lot in free agency. They spent a lot of friggin' money this offseason. Quarterback PJ Walker, running backs Deontay Foreman and Travis Homer. They traded for wide receiver DJ Moore. They signed tight end Robert Tunyon, guard Nate Davis, defensive tackles Andrew Billings and DeMarcus Walker, edge rusher Rasheem Green, linebackers Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, and Dylan Cole. They spent a lot on the linebackers, especially Edmonds there. But yeah, sure. I don't know if those are going to be enough. I think they should have probably went after a corner in free agency with all that money they spent, because they really didn't. They didn't go after like what are considered the top most important positions, other than quarterback, obviously, which they weren't going to do. But they didn't go after a tackle. They didn't go after a corner, which are the other two. They didn't go after a pass rusher either, other than Green.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one of the things to keep in mind is that this is a Bears team that had so much like money to work with that they actually needed to get to like the cash floor. So I think that's part of it. Yeah, I think I would have liked to maybe sign one more like a veteran anchor on the O line at one of the tackle spots, whether that was getting a big name like Orlando Brown or Mike McGlinchey, or Caleb McGarry. But in a perfect world, I think you would have done it on the D line as well. But honestly, the free agent pool for D line was not that great, especially at edge. Javon Hargrave is one of the only guys that kind of hit the open market that I think could have been a difference maker for them. And at the same time, he's going into his third contract, which really doesn't fit kind of their timeline of looking to get young. So, I mean, while I wish that money could have gone to more important positions, as you said, they needed to spend it. And they're getting a guy in Edmonds who you could make the argument we haven't seen his best ball. He's still super young, super athletic, kind of fits their timeline, fits the identity of Chicago. Just kind of that linebacker position, historically is an important position for the Chicago Bears. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, their losses, there weren't a lot of big ones. There were a couple, though. Quarterback Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle, your guy Tim Boyle there. They lost running back David Montgomery. Running back Darrington Evans is a free agent. Wide receivers Byron Pringle and N'Keal Harry, both free agents still. Offensive tackle Riley Reef. Defensive tackle Angelo Blackson. Edge rusher Al-Qadim Muhammad is a free agent. They lost linebacker Nicholas Morrow. Linebacker Joe Thomas is a free agent, as is safety DeAndre Houston Carson. So obviously David Montgomery, biggest loss to their free agency. They really didn't have a lot of major contributors, anyways, that a lot of other teams were wanting. So,
yeah.
But I do think they're going to miss him. I don't think Deontay Foreman and Travis Homer. I just don't think their running back room is going to be as efficient. So,
well, they still got Khalil Herbert, right?
Yes. And Rashawn Johnson, who we'll talk about.
Yeah.
So the Bears, record-wise, it's not pretty again. Chicago 4-13. I have them. 1-5 in the division, splitting with the Lions of all teams. The week 1 is a home game against the Packers. So right out of the gate, you got the rivalry. So that's a tough week 1 game. I had them losing though in Chicago. They do get a win week 2 at the Bucs. It's a nice game for them. But then it's not so nice. At the Chiefs, home against the Broncos. I have them losing at the Commanders, Thursday Night Football. I have Sam Howell beating the Chicago Bears. Yes. They lose at home against the Vikings. Then they win week 7 at home against the Raiders. They lose at home or at the Chargers, Sunday Night Football. They lose at the Saints. They lose to the guy that they gave up, number 1 pick, Bryce Young in Chicago, Thursday Night Football, week 10. They win at the Lions. They lose at the Vikings, Monday Night Football. Bye week 13, I think, is tough for this young team. And then after that, they lose at home against the Lions. They lose at the Browns. They win at home against the Cardinals. They lose at home against the Falcons. And then they lose at the Packers week 18. There's a bunch of games that could be flipped. I could see a bunch of them getting flipped. But overall, it's not a pretty schedule.
Yeah. I had them going 4-13. I think when they traded out of the number 1 pick, a lot of Bears fans, I think, just forgot that they were at the top of the draft and finished as the worst team in football last year. I don't have them finishing as the worst team in football. I think they're going to improve, based in part with what they did in the draft and the trade they made. But there's a lot of holes on the roster. And I think they could finish 4-13, even with Justin Fields maybe solidifying that he's the franchise guy, maybe showing some improvements, forming a connection with DJ Moore, and still displaying that athleticism. There's still just a lot of question marks. So, yeah.
Well, I still don't believe in Justin Fields. And I won't be a believer until he proves it and he gets him into the playoffs. But yeah, it's Justin Fields is a big issue for me. Also, I don't think the offensive line is going to improve enough, especially the left side of the line. Braxton Jones going into his second year, started at left tackle last year as a 6th-round rookie. Tevin Jenkins, who was a former first-round pick, or second, I guess he went in the top of the second, I think, his year. But he never worked at tackle, so they moved into guard. Has worked a little bit better there. The right side I like. Nate Davis is a stud at right guard, and I loved the Darnell Wright pick at number 10. That I think he's going to be good. So the right side, I'm fine with the right side. I'm scared about the left side of the line, though. Again, I don't think the running game is going to be as good without David Montgomery. Deontay Foreman is a two-down back. He's not really a pass catcher. Now, like you said, they have Khalil Herbert. But he's also a guy that kind of got jumbled up in the depth chart last year. So I'm not even sure he's solidified as the running back too. Love Rashawn Johnson. We'll talk about him though. The wide receiver depth is decent actually when I look at it. But yeah, there's too many question marks I think still for this team, and we'd have to see it all together to really know what they are. Fantasy, Justin Fields. Go ahead. I already dissed him enough today.
Yeah, I think for dynasty purposes, it's definitely a leap of faith. It's high risk, high reward. Right now, I don't like where the ADP is. I mean, he's like a first round pick. I know I think on Sleeper they have him above Trevor Lawrence, which is just absurd to me. But we're talking about someone who, if he has another bad passing season, is not going to be the guy in Chicago. If he doesn't show improvement in that area, he could run for another 1,000 yards. But long term, that could be a problem. At the same time, you could be betting, and if he does show improvement, we're talking about someone who, for fantasy purposes, is a major asset. When you can get 1,000-yard rusher at the quarterback position, there just aren't many guys who can do that. So if he solidifies himself as a franchise guy, then you have a unicorn kind of on your roster. Again, it's a little too rich for my blood right now. At least the last time I did some mock drafts, he was at I think pick 10, which in Superflex at least, which that's way too much for me. But yeah, I mean, if you're a riverboat gambler, do it.
Yeah, I'm not touching him. Like I said, I don't trust him to throw for enough yards consistently every week. And the schedule, like I said, is kind of tough. They play some good defenses, the Broncos, the Commanders, the Saints, Chargers, and Packers are kind of similar. They're kind of mid defenses at this point. And then the Browns defense is pretty solid, and so is the Panthers. So probably at least half of their schedule is going to be facing mid to upper level defenses. So that's why I don't like him also. But yeah, the rushing stats in a super flex, I think that's fine to have him as your QB2. I just won't have him. Running back, Deontay Foreman. I loved Deontay Foreman, did a great job in Carolina last year. But again, he's not a receiving back. So he's going to play first and second, and then he's going to get off the field. So I think that limits him a lot. He's probably a flex option with RB2 upside. Definitely not going to get to RB1 numbers, I don't think, anyways, this year.
Yeah. Yeah, the backfield is kind of wide open for them between those four guys. And, I mean, you could be potentially looking at one of those guys getting cut, or at least one of the three vets, because I don't know if they go into the season with four on the roster. So, yeah, I don't know. it's really wide open, and take your bets on who do you think can establish that lead role.
Wide receivers here: DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. Um, yeah, the DJ Moore is the only one I'm very comfortable taking. I shouldn't say very comfortable because I don't like Justin Fields. So DJ Moore is an issue for me with him. But he's the number one by far. I don't think it's even close to any other player at the wideout spot. So I'll give DJ the benefit of the doubt, and I'll give him wide receiver 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think DJ Moore is a good player to bet on just because he's had a consistently decent floor. He hasn't lived up to the expectations that fantasy people have given him because, we all recognize the talent. It's just that, he hasn't had great quarterbacks to play with. So what I think, I think when you're looking at DJ Moore, high floor, the worst case scenario is that Justin Fields doesn't have a great connection with him, doesn't pan out as a passer, but you're still getting similar output that DJ Moore had in Carolina, which is decent numbers. The upside is if Justin Fields does have that connection, you're talking about a guy who can be a wide receiver 1. So I'm high on it. I'm high on DJ Moore, especially for dynasty purposes. Yeah.
Yeah, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. Not sure which one. Probably Mooney. He's been there the longest. Going to be the second guy in the pecking order. I like him as a possible flex play, but possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Mooney's a good buy in dynasty. After a down year, I think you could see a bounce back. Yeah.
Cole Kmet. This is probably the guy I love the most on the offense. Has a great connection with Justin Fields. He actually is probably the second guy in the pecking order at catching the ball. So I like him as a tight end 1. With how shallow that position is. I don't think there are a lot of other guys. I don't think there are 10 other guys that are above Cole Kmet in fantasy tight end rankings that would make him not a starter.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely thin at that position in fantasy, but yeah, I mean he does seem to have a connection with Justin Fields. I think he's based on the roster, he's for sure their tight end 1, so I think he has upside, definitely at least in terms of volume.
Kicker Cairo Santos. Again, I'm not a Justin Fields person, so I don't believe in this offense enough to give Cairo enough opportunities. So I am staying away from Mr. Santos.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just that'd be too much to bet on that offense just exploding, which while I think they can improve, I don't see them all of a sudden just being a scoring machine. So.
And how about this new look Bears defense with a lot of new faces on it? Your guy Jack Sanborn has a starting linebacker spot right now, and the corners scare me though. Is the pass rush going to be good enough? Who knows? So I'm staying away from Chicago's defense currently, but monitoring them.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think there are too many holes that need to be addressed. I think we're looking at the first year of kind of a big rebuild of that unit, and I think they took steps to get there. Jermaine Edmonds. I liked the Gervin Dexter pick. But there's still a long way to go for that unit. So,
All right, rookies. Running back Rashawn Johnson. Absolutely. Love him. Love Rashawn Johnson. I picked him, I believe, in one or maybe both of my best ball leagues. Because I think he's going to end up as a starter. We mentioned when we talked about Bijan with the NFC South preview, or maybe it was just the draft coverage. If it weren't for Bijan, like Rashawn Johnson would have been a stud at Texas. And I think that's what the Bears got at a very reasonable price. I think it was a 4th rounder that they spent on him. And he went in the 3rd round of my rookie draft, 7th overall. So 27th. Wow. 7th in the round. 27th overall he went.
That's a steal, if you ask me.
Unfortunately, yeah. I didn't.
But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think he could be this year's Dameon Pierce. The running back room's wide open. It's there. The number 1 spot is there for the taking. Middle round selection, high enough to where the Bears put up some decently significant capital to get him. And someone who was not utilized heavily at Texas, for obvious reasons, being Bijan, being as close to generational talent as you could get there. So yeah, I mean, I think that he's one of my guys for sure heading into the fantasy season.
Yeah, and the other rookie we have to talk about is Tyler Scott. 4th round pick, Cincinnati. Another Cincinnati wide receiver, of course. We had Alec Pierce last year. And he's got some uphill battles. Doesn't really have a spot right now in the starting lineup. So dynasty, no redraft, but dynasty purposes. He went undrafted in our rookie draft. And but I think eventually Claypool's going to be gone next year. I think his contract's up. So I think Scott might be able to break in there and maybe put up possibly flex numbers, depending quarterback-wise.
Yeah. Yeah. Scott's a burner, super fast. Justin Fields has the arm strength to definitely push it downfield. Maybe they could get something going. I definitely think he's worth a look as kind of one of those sleeper picks.
Put him on your taxi squad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're moving on to the Lions. You heading out?
Yeah, I'm heading out. But I'll give my quick rundown. I like the Lions heading into this year. I think this could be the year, that they really go forward. Let me just double check where I had them finishing. I don't remember if I had them making the playoffs.
I was actually surprised at when I did my game by game.
Yeah.
For the
rest I have them at 9-8. And I do have them winning the division at 9-8. But still, I think it's just going to be a consistent moving forward with them. This is a young team. But I think, their next step is making those playoffs. And I think that they could end up doing it this year. My Packers, I have going 8-9. I think that, I'm a Jordan Love believer. I think he has the talent to do it. I think he's sad enough to where they've been able to take that raw prospect and turn him into a above average passer. But it all depends on if we see that. And that's going to make or break this kind of prediction. But I really like the infusion of young talent on the offensive side of the ball. I know everyone makes a big deal about the first round pass catcher thing, but they took 3 pass catchers on day 2, so they 3 selections in the top 100. I think those dudes could really help that offensive unit. And then I had the Bears finishing last in the division, as we just kind of talked about. So that's how I see it kind of shaking down. Oh, the Vikings I have going 8-9 with the Packers. I believe I had them 3rd in the division with the tiebreakers, because I think I had them going 3-3 in division play. Packers going 4-2 in division play. I think there's going to be a little bit of a course correction after last year. They kind of, it's been done to death, but we talked about how kind of that record wasn't sustainable because of how many like 1-score games there were and things of that nature. But yeah, I mean, I talked about before, I think that offense has the potential to be just electric. It's just the defense that I'm worried about. So yeah.
You want a spoiler before you go that even though we're not on the Packers yet, but
sure.
Doing my game by games, I had the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love winning the NFC North in the first year.
Let's go, baby. He's on it. He's on it. Let's go.
9-8. 9-8. Wins you the
Nice,
division.
dude. Well, I'm excited to hear the analysis, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate it. I'll see you.
Have a good
one. But the Lions, anyways, they're off season with the re-signings. Quarterback Nate Sudfeld, running back Craig Reynolds, tight end Brock Wright, guard Halapoli Vaitai, defensive tackles Isaiah Buggs and John Kaminsky, edge rushers Romeo Aquara and Charles Harris, linebacker Alex Anzalone, and kicker Michael Badgley. The free agent signings for Detroit: running back David Montgomery, wide receiver Marvin Mims Marvin Mims. He plays for the Broncos. Marvin Jones Jr., offensive tackle Jermaine Ifedi, guard Graham Glasgow, defensive tackle Christian Covington, corners Emmanuel Mosley and Cameron Sutton, safety CJ Gardner-Johnson. They traded for kicker Riley Patterson, and they signed long snapper Jake McQuaid. Lions were fantastic this offseason. They didn't have to do a lot on offense, but I think the Marvin Jones signing is paramount now with Jamison Williams out the first 6 games. They really didn't have a lot of quality receiver depth. No offense, Khalif Raymond and Tom Kennedy, both ultra explosive, but not a lot of talent there anyways. But the David Montgomery thing, I think, was fantastic with the drafting of Jahmyr Gibbs, which we'll talk about. And the defensive additions, the secondary specifically, was a big issue last year. They got 3 studs: Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, CJ Gardner-Johnson, who they actually have at corner right now, playing slot corner. And they have a guy that was a 3rd-round pick last year out of Illinois, Kirby Joseph, playing the strong safety spot opposite Pro Bowler Tracy Walker there, and their new guy Brian Branch that they got in the 2nd round. So anyways, I think they did a fantastic job this offseason of plugging some holes that they needed on offense, but really focusing on the defense, especially the back end, the back 7 of that defense. Losses: running backs Jamal Williams, Justin Jackson is a free agent, and they traded away running back DeAndre Swift. They lost wide receiver DJ Chark. Wide receiver Quintez Cephas is a free agent. Defensive tackles Michael Brockers is a free agent. And they lost corners Jeff Okuda, Mike Hughes, and Amani Aruwariye, and safety Deshaun Elliott. So the corners, like I said, kind of in and out situation there, where they got 3 in, got Lost 3, got 3 though. The running backs were also similar. Drafting Gibbs, signing Montgomery, re-signing Reynolds there, and then they lost Williams, Swift were the big two. So, and the wide receiver, I think they're going to miss DJ Chark, possibly with especially the first 6. Like I said, without Williams, offense might not run as smoothly without Chark there. Lions, though, 8-9, 3-3. Now, this is not indicative of how I actually feel about the team. This is just me picking games based off the other teams and what I felt in my gut at the time I picked these games, because I do have a future, a season-long bet that the Lions win the division, $11 to win 10. So, but it's a tough schedule. The division playing the AFC West and the NFC South is not a big issue, but the AFC West is the biggest one. And then their other 3, they play the NFC East, the NFC West, and the AFC North are their other 3 games there based off division standing last year. So that means they get the Seahawks, Ravens, and the Cowboys. But they start off opening night at Kansas City. That is a loss. Thursday night kickoff there for the season. I don't see them winning in Kansas City. They lose at home against the Seahawks as well. I think that offense in Seattle is going to be too good, and that defense is a lot improved. So I like Seattle to win that one. They win at home against the Falcons. They lose at the Packers on Thursday Night Football Week 4. Might be at that game. Who knows? They win at home against the Panthers Week 5, unfortunately for Bryce Young. They win at the Buccaneers. They lose at the Ravens Week 7. Win at home against the Raiders Monday Night Football Week 8. Week 9 bye, so they go in 4-4. It does not go well down the stretch the last half of the season. At the Chargers, they lose. They lose at home against the Bears. They win at home against the Packers on Thanksgiving. They win at the Saints. They win at the Bears. They lose at home against the Broncos. They lose at the Vikings. They lose at the Cowboys on a Saturday night game, Week 17. And then they win at home against the Vikings Week 18, which could be a play-in game or win-an-in game there, possibly, depending on how this division shakes out the rest of the way. But, yeah, 8-9 for Detroit. That gives them 3rd place, unfortunately. But, again, it's not actually how I feel about this team. I do like them to win the division, just like Logan had them. I just picked them one game off. I do think 9-8 is where your division winner is going to get in this one. And hopefully Detroit proves my 8-9 record wrong and they win a couple more games. But I do have them splitting with all 3 teams in the division, giving the Bears their only divisional win of the season. Fantasy-wise, quarterback Jared Goff, excellent option in fantasy as a backup, though. I wouldn't trust Goff on a weekly basis, regardless of what they did last year and regardless of who they have now. I just don't trust him enough, especially the first 6 weeks without Jameson Williams. Not sure how that passing game is going to work. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have to work a lot in that passing game those first 6 games of his rookie year to help this offense along. So Goff I like as a backup option with definite QB1 upside. Someone is probably going to end up starting Jared Goff as their starting quarterback this year, but it's not going to be me unless I have to. Running back David Montgomery, I like him. I think he's going to do well in this offense. There's going to be enough to eat for both running backs, him and Gibbs. I'll talk about Gibbs in a second, but there was enough last year when it was Swift and Williams. So why should there not be enough touches to go around for Amani and Jahmyr? So that's why I like this. I like Monty as an RB2. probably neither is going to get to an RB1 status, but I do like Monty. That's why I tried to trade for him. I can't remember if I did. I don't think I did. I wasn't able to trade for him, but I tried to anyways. That's the point there. Wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Marvin Jones Jr. Amon-Ra is a bona fide number one wide receiver. Take him in the second round. I think that's where you're probably going to find him. Maybe if you get lucky in the third round, but I don't think he's getting past the second as a true number one wide receiver in this league. And there's not much else to say. He's the guy in Detroit. Jameson Williams, he's an intriguing option. Now, he's going to get drafted a lot later than he probably normally would. Definitely in Dynasty, he's a great option if you're doing a startup there. But I'm not sure where he's going to get drafted with his 6-game suspension. So you got to monitor that, do some mock drafts, see where he's going just to know, to kind of figure out what his ADP is that Logan likes to use their average draft position. Make sure you know where he's going so you can be prepared, because I do think he's going to be a wide receiver too when he comes back. It's just you have to place him on your IR if that's the other thing. If your league allows suspended players to be on IR, I know all my leagues do, but if your league doesn't, then he's probably not a guy for you to take a roster spot for 6 of the normal 14-week regular season in fantasy. You're almost half of the regular season without a possible flex / wide receiver 2 option. That's tough to justify taking a roster spot away from. So make sure you know your league rules. And if you can put suspended players on the IR, definitely an option to take later in the whatever 10th round, maybe. I don't know where he's going actually, but Marvin Jones Jr. Now that's the opposite of Jameson Williams, right? He's gonna get a lot of targets in the early going. So I think that is where you can maybe finagle someone out of trading for Marvin Jones, or into trading for Marvin Jones. If he's productive in the first 6 weeks and Jameson Williams is coming back, maybe trade him a week early, trade him that 5th week or week 5, just so you know that he won't be the wide receiver 2 in 2 weeks. And then, you can get something back for Marvin Jones. I think that's a great trade strategy there. But I do think Marvin Jones is probably going to be a wide receiver 3 at the very worst in those first 6, and then a wide receiver 2 with a wide receiver 2 upside in that early going. Don't think he has a lot of value, maybe possibly flex later on in the season once Williams is back. But his value is really at the beginning of the year, draft and trade. That's the strategy of Marvin Jones. Tight end Brock Wright. I don't like him. The tight end position is super shallow, like I've mentioned a lot. But Brock Wright had a decent season last year after they traded TJ Hawkinson, but I just don't trust him enough. I know Goff likes him, but there's a rookie that I like better. So we'll talk about him in a second. Kickers, Michael Badgley, Riley Patterson. I don't know which guy's going to win the job, but I like either. Whichever one. John Parker Romo, also there, signed from the XFL, San Antonio Brahmas. But I don't know which guy is going to win the job for Detroit. Again, I like either. Badgley has the bigger leg, I believe. And but I don't think it's going to matter. Whichever guy wins the job, I think is going to do a great job. And this offense produces enough points and is going to give you enough opportunities that you can do well with either one. The Lions defense. Now, this is the unit that is on the screen right there. They're the biggest question mark for the Detroit Lions. Can they make it work? A lot of work in the secondary. I just don't trust the pass rush, Hutchinson was fantastic last year as a rookie. James Houston as well as a rookie. But they didn't get another guy. They just re-signed Romeo Okwara and Charles Harris and Kaminsky. They didn't get another marquee guy to go opposite of Hutchinson. So I think the pass rush is going to struggle again. The linebackers, I think, are pretty solid. Campbell and Anzalone, Jalen Reeves-Maybin as well, or Malcolm Rodriguez, I should say. But still a lot of question marks. I'm not sure. Not touching the Lions at this point. They're right in the mix with the Bears, though, in kind of the monitoring territory. Let's go to rookies here. Quarterback Hendon Hooker. Now, he's a guy you're looking strictly dynasty right now. We know he's not going to play this year, more than likely, unless Goff gets hurt. I don't know if he's going to be ready for the season. But Hendon Hooker went in the 5th round of my rookie draft. 4th pick in the 5th round, so 44th overall. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get drafted in a lot of rookie drafts with the big four, or the other 4 rookie quarterbacks there. But I do like him. I love him actually in a dynasty league if you can get him as your future starter or a future starter, I should say. Great, was excellent at Tennessee last year, and I think this offense is a pretty solid offense for him to work in. Going to learn behind Goff and play for 2024 and beyond. Running back Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, I hated the Lions where they drafted him at 12th overall, but I do think he's going to be a stud. They drafted him because they wanted a replacement for DeAndre Swift, and he does the exact same things that DeAndre Swift did or does now in Philly, but can catch the ball, can run the ball, excellent slasher type running back. Kind of small, not really, 5'11", 200, not too small anyways. I thought he was more 180 range, but not a pounder like Monty is, but can do everything in 3-down back. So I like him a lot. He was the 2nd overall pick in our rookie draft. So, yeah, it's going to be tough to get him in your dynasty leagues. Redraft, though, you can take him as your backup running back, and I think he's going to give you RB2 numbers with RB1 upside. RB1 upside definitely in dynasty. Last guy here for the Lions, tight end Sam Laporta. Now, this is the guy I think is going to take over the tight end spot eventually. What did they do last year? They traded an Iowa tight end in Hawkinson. What do they do this year? They draft the tight end, an Iowa tight end, and Sam Laporta. Great seam stretcher. Can block as well, which I think Gibbs will appreciate. So I like Sam Laporta as a backup tight end, even in redraft. If you get to the end of the draft and you're like, dang, I forgot to draft a backup tight end. Well, there you go. There's one in Sam Laporta that I think will take over the job eventually, hopefully this year. But definitely in the future, I think he will. So dynasty, excellent option there if you need a tight end. Unfortunately, I didn't need one, so I didn't really look at taking him. He went in the 2nd round, 8th pick in that round, so 18th overall in our dynasty league there. 3rd tight end off the board after Kincaid and Michael Mayer. But I really like him. I think he's an excellent option, even in redraft possibly as a backup tight end. Let's move on to the Packers. This is what all the people came to see here in Wisconsin. Green Bay Packers, their re-signings, running back Aaron Jones, tight end Tyler Davis, offensive tackle Yosh Nijman, corners Corey Ballantyne and Keyshawn Nixon, and safety Rudy Ford. They did almost nothing in free agency. They signed a couple safeties. Jonathan Owens, Tarvarius Moore was their biggest signing in free agency. So they stayed put. They had they had to get the Aaron Rodgers money off the books. That's what held up pretty much their free agency this year. So that was an issue. So, yeah, I really don't have much to say about the re-signings or the free agency. Losses. They traded away quarterback Aaron Rodgers, lost wide receivers Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb, tight end Mercedes Lewis is a free agent, tight end Robert Tunyon, defensive tackles Dean Lowry and Jaron Reed, safety Adrian Amos, and free kicker Mason Crosby is a free agent still. Not a lot of big losses. Obviously, A-Rod is the biggest one there. Thought the trade was pretty solid for both sides. And Lazard is also a major loss, but they drafted a bunch of guys. We'll see if it works. So, like I mentioned to Logan earlier, the Green Bay Packers will win the NFC North at 9-8. That is what I have as my game-by-game predictions. 4-2 in the division. Week 1, they start out pretty solid. Week 1, win at the Bears. Week 2, win at the Falcons. Week 3 is a loss. Home against the Saints. Week 4, at home against the Lions. That's Thursday Night Football. That is a win. They win at the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Week 6, bye. So 4-1. They are feeling fantastic, is Packers Nation with Jordan Love. Week 7, lose at the Broncos. They lose at home against the Vikings. Week 8, they win at home against the Rams. Week 9, they lose at the Steelers. Week 10, I think the Steelers will get them there in Pittsburgh. This is the start of a 4-game losing streak. They lose at home against the Chargers. They lose at the Lions on Thanksgiving. They lose at home against the Chiefs Sunday Night Football. And they lose, or 5-game losing streak. They lose at home at the Giants Monday Night Football as well. So 3 straight special games there. They win 4 straight to end the season, though. At home against the Bucks, at the Panthers, at the Vikings Sunday Night Football versus the Bears on Week 18. I think that is an excellent schedule down the stretch in December and January. The Packers really couldn't have asked for a better schedule to end the year. So it starts off nice, tough in the middle there, but it ends off very easy at the end. So 9-8, 4-2 in the division. Let's talk about fantasy. Jordan Love. I'm not sure. I don't know what to think about Jordan Love. I'm not touching him in fantasy right now. Dynasty, it was interesting. He was a free agent in our league, and someone took him actually in our rookie draft because we allow veterans to get drafted as well. Jordan Love went in the second round, last pick, so 20th overall in our rookie veteran draft there. But yeah, I mean, I think he has the potential to be a good backup quarterback in fantasy. I'm just not trusting him. There's too many question marks. I like to look for solidity in my my quarterbacks specifically, and most of the players that I draft are consistent and have a record of being consistent. So until I see it from Jordan Love, I'm not comfortable drafting him in fantasy right now. Running backs, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. Aaron Jones is great. He is borderline RB1. I think he does a lot. It'll be interesting to see how much they throw to the running back with Love under center. But I do still think he's a high-end RB2 with definite RB1 upside. You're probably going to draft Aaron Jones in the second round because he's probably the top half of the running backs there, top 12 running backs. So, yeah, going to go very high, I think, is Jones, and I like him. A.J. Dillon is an interesting option. A lot of people thought that maybe they wouldn't re-sign Aaron Jones and just give Dillon the reins to the backfield. But the issue with Dillon is he's not really a pass catcher. He's really more of a goal line, short yardage pounder that doesn't have a lot of long speed. So good handcuff if you do that kind of thing. but I like A.J. Dillon as a flex, at the best probably with Aaron Jones there. Wide receivers, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. I absolutely love Christian Watson. I like both of these receivers coming out last year as rookies. Doubs, I loved even more than Watson because he was my Nevada guy with Carson Strong and a couple other guys like Toa Taua and Cole Turner. But anyways, I think Watson is going to be a stud. Wide receiver 2 at the worst. Kind of like Aaron Jones, wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside. He's probably going to go in the 4th, 5th round, I think. Maybe that's too rich. Maybe a little bit later. I don't know. But Watson is a guy I definitely like, and I would like to have on my roster as my second wide receiver. Romeo Doubs is a guy I think you can draft, though. I think he's a flex play at the worst with wide receiver 3 upside. Just depends on how efficient Jordan Love is in this offense. So have to kind of wait and see. So Watson is a solid pick in my mind. Doubs is kind of a lesser kind of dart throw in the later rounds of the draft. Tight end and kicker I don't have because the starters are listed as rookies. So we'll talk about them in a second. Packers defense. Now I do think this is the best defense in the division. I think they are an option that is a backup. I don't think they're good enough though to be a starting defense. They're just off the fringe, and their picks on defense have been pretty solid the last couple of years. Wyatt and Walker last year they drafted in the first round. Gary has kind of come into himself. They got Van Ness this year, and the secondary is kind of scary at corner after the first 3, and the safeties I'm not sold on. So that's what puts them outside starting caliber defenses. Good backup defense to have, though. I think, especially like I mentioned, early in the season and late in the season, that's where they're going to have their best defensive performances against weaker offenses. In the middle of the season, it's kind of tougher. But, yeah, not drafting them. Backup defense currently for me. The rookies, there are a lot of them to talk about. Revamping this offense. Wide receivers, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. You could even put Grant Dubose in that conversation as well because he's listed as wide receiver 6 right now. But Jaden Reed is a guy I'm not so sure about. I didn't really like the selection in the 3rd round. He's kind of a one-trick pony at this point with just deep speed. And he's a guy I'm kind of staying away from. Was super explosive at Michigan State. He went in the 4th round in our rookie draft, 34th overall. So undrafted in most rookie drafts, which again I think is fine. Not sure how much he's going to get this year. He's listed as a starter in 3 wide receiver sets, but I don't like him currently. Solid option in Dynasty, though, if you want to keep him on your bench and see what he does. Dontavian Wicks, he's a guy that was all over the field at Virginia, wide out tight end hybrid. 6'2", 208. Excellent body type, and going to be a jump ball kind of guy because Watson does have solid size as well at 6'5", 208. So he's even taller. And Dobbs, 6'2", 204. Reed is on the smaller side, 6 foot, 185. And Samori Toure is definitely tiny, 6'1", 191. So I like Wicks, though. I think he is going to be the better of the two receivers. He's less refined in his route running, but he does a lot more middle of the field stuff than Jaden Reed does currently. That's why I like Dontavian Wicks. I think they needed that guy that could play on the outside with Dobbs in the slot and Watson on the other outside spot. Looks like they're going to put Dobbs and Watson on the outside and put Reed in the slot currently, which makes a lot of sense with what he does. But I think Wicks is a guy that could produce at a decent clip as a backup wide receiver this year, and then next year you could see him really produce. Even though he's got some hurdles with the guys in front of him currently. But I like Wicks. It's kind of like last year where I liked Dobbs better than Watson. I like Watson better than Dobbs now, but I'm kind of picking Wicks over Reed, the later draft pick. Tight ends, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, both drafted this year. Luke Musgrave is a guy that's going to be excellent. Field stretcher for Jordan Love in the middle of the field. And I really like him. I think he could blossom into a starting tight end. I think redraft leagues, you're going to look at him as your backup currently with tight end one upside because of how the target shares are going to work out in this offense. Definitely in Dynasty, you're looking at him as a future tight end one. He went in the second round, I mentioned. Or no, he went in the third round, I should say. He was the fourth tight end taken, third round, 26th overall was where Mr. Musgrave went. Tucker Kraft, undrafted. Also undrafted was Dontavian Wicks for Green Bay. But look, I think Musgrave is going to be great. Doesn't do a lot of blocking, which is fine because they have blocking tight ends behind him and Josiah DeGuara, Kraft, and Davis. Tucker Kraft is a guy that was excellent at South Dakota State. Won a national championship last year. 6'5", 255, massive frame. Chunky is Kraft. So, he's probably not going to be the starter ever, but has a lot of upside, and he can stretch the seams as well. He's not fast by any means, but I really like him. He's a guy that, unfortunately, though, in fantasy, not really worth a roster spot in Dynasty or redraft currently. Let's talk about kicker. Rookie kicker Anders Carlson, drafted in the 6th round this year out of Auburn. Now, his brother Daniel with the Raiders is fantastic. Why can't Anders be the same? Now, they just released their longtime kicker, Mason Crosby. Anders Carlson, I think, is going to be fantastic. Should have a massive leg like his brother does. I just don't believe in rookie kickers currently, and it's going to be tough. I don't know if this offense is going to produce enough opportunities for him to be a starting kicker on a weekly basis. I think he's a streamable kicker by far. It's just in the season-long rankings, don't know if he's going to show up as a starter in that top 10 of the kickers. So putting him out right now, good streaming option though. And finally, let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings. The re-signings here for the Vikings: quarterback Nick Mullins, running back Alexander Madison, center Garrett Bradbury, defensive tackles Ross Blacklock and Jonathan Bullard, linebacker Jordan Hicks, kicker Greg Joseph, long snapper Andrew DePaula. Their free agency signings, they didn't do a lot either. But tight end Josh Oliver, defensive tackle Dean Lowry, edge rusher Marcus Davenport, linebacker Troy Reeder, corners Byron Murphy and Jawan Williams. I think the Murphy and Williams signings were much needed. The secondary, especially corner, has been a rotating door for years. And Byron Murphy was a stud in Arizona. I think he'll be a stud in Minnesota now. The re-signings there, Madison obviously was the big one. Bradbury, though, was also him and Greg Joseph, the kicker, I think were two very important re-signings. Bradbury in the center of the offense, and you can never have too much stability at the kicker position, which Greg Joseph gives you. Losses. Running back Dalvin Cook is a free agent currently. They just released him. Wide receivers Adam Thielen and BC Johnson. Tight end Irv Smith Jr. Defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson. Edge rusher Zadarius Smith. They traded him to Cleveland. They lost linebacker Eric Kendricks. Corners Patrick Peterson, Shannon Sullivan, Cameron Dantzler, and Chris Boyd. So a lot of corners out. Now they did get some back. They signed John Reed, Mekhi Blackman, Caleb Evans as well. And I mentioned Jawan Williams, Byron Murphy. So they did get some back, even though they lost 4 corners there. But I think the biggest ones are going to be the corners. Eric Kendricks also a big loss in the middle of that defense, even though they got Jordan Hicks back. They're asking, looks like they have Ryan Asamoah in the starting lineup right now, 3rd-round pick last year out of Oklahoma, as their other inside linebacker in their base 3-4. So we'll see. We'll see who gets that other spot beside Hicks. They signed Troy Reeder, like I mentioned, drafted Troy Dye last year as well, which I liked coming out of Oregon. Vikings, 8-9 is what I have them finishing second in the division at 4-2 in divisional record. Week 1 at home against the Bucs is a win. They lose at Philly. Thursday Night Football, Week 2. They lose at home against the Chargers. They win at the Panthers. Lose at home against the Chiefs, Week 5. Week 6, they win at the Bears. They lose at home against the 49ers, Monday Night Football. They win at the Packers, Week 8. They win at the Falcons, Week 9. They lose at home against the Saints, Week 10. They lose at the Broncos, Sunday Night Football, Week 11. They win at home against the Bears, Monday Night Football, Week 12. Week 13 bye, so they go into that bye week 6-6. Mediocrity is what Minnesota preaches. They win at the Raiders after the bye, Week 14. Lose at the Bengals, Week 15. Week 16, they win at home against the Lions. And then they're right on the cusp. You know, they're 8-7 fighting for the division, and they have 2 divisional games left. They lose both at home against the Packers, Sunday Night Football, lose at the Lions, Week 18 to wrap it up. 8-9. They still finish second in the division, though. Like I mentioned, no playoffs, unfortunately, for Minnesota this year. Fantasy-wise, quarterback Kirk Cousins, starting caliber quarterback, I think. Pretty consistent week-to-week fantasy-wise. He's a guy that's on the lower end of the QB1s, but definitely a starting caliber player. Like Logan mentioned, with Madison, Jefferson, the addition of Jordan Addison this year. They have KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson at tight end. Plethora of weapons there. So, yeah, I think he's startable quarterback. But he's one that you can get in the mid-rounds, I think. Rounds 8 to 10 area is pretty solid for Kirk Cousins, I think. Running back Alexander Mattison. I love Alexander Mattison this year. Stepping into the starting role, he should be a beast. This offensive line is pretty solid, actually. I don't think the O-line gets talked about a lot for Minnesota, but I like it, and I like Madison this year. I think he's going to be excellent. RB1 even. Low-end RB1, RB2 floor. So startable. Probably going to get drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne. JJ, he's being talked about as possibly the number 1 overall pick in fantasy this year. with Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, he's gonna be a stud, and if you don't have the number one pick or close to it, you're probably not going to get him. So I'm talking to a limited number of people that don't know their draft position yet, but probably not even thinking about fantasy yet. Like my guy Peter asked, "You're doing fantasy already?" When I did my 2 best ball leagues in DraftKings, I'm like, "Yeah, why not? It's always time for fantasy." As Fantasy Live has gone back to work at ESPN a couple weeks ago. But yeah, if you're not in the first 5 picks, you're probably not getting Justin Jefferson. KJ Osborne, on the other hand, doesn't have as much value as he did last year. Probably still enough work to be a streaming flex option, but other than that, not really rosterable. Rosterable, I guess, but I am not going to roster him more than likely. It's tough to keep a wide receiver 3 on a team when you have 31 other wide receiver 2s to pick from. Tight end TJ Hawkinson, I love me some Hawk. He's been my guy from day one, and the trade to Minnesota elevated him even more. Tight end 1 all the way. He's in the conversation to be in the top 5 tight ends in the league. Obviously, you got the big 3 and Kittle, Kelsey, or you got the big 2, I should say, Kittle and Kelsey. And then you got a bunch of other guys fighting for the next couple spots. It used to be Kittle, Kelsey, and Ertz as the top 3, but Ertz has kind of fallen off in Arizona now. So I like Hawk as a top 5 tight end, though. Startable. Draft him in the 3rd, 4th round, probably. Kicker, Greg Joseph, re-signed this year. Yeah, excellent option. I think this offense gives you a lot of opportunities in the kicking game. He made a lot of field goals last year, especially game winners. So I think Greg Joseph is a good option as a lower-end starting kicker. And the Vikings defense, I'm not trusting it. Too many question marks, just like the Lions and the Bears defenses. Their front is decent. The pass rush, they better hope Marcus Davenport works opposite Danielle Hunter, and Hunter might not even be there as they're getting trade talks or receiving calls about him right now. Secondary is suspect again, so I'm staying away from the Vikings defense. Don't like them as a backup either. Let's go to rookies here. Quarterback, Jaren Hall, 5th round pick out of BYU this year. Interesting scenario. He's the 3rd string guy right now. But 2024, Kirk Cousins' contract is up, and they said they're not going to talk to Cousins until March, right before free agency. So it opens the door for Jaren Hall. Experienced guy, sat behind Zach Wilson, but he's an older rookie. I believe he's 25, just like Stetson Bennett. And he knows what he's doing. So, and he's a dual threat as well. So I like Jaren Hall in Dynasty. He didn't get drafted in our Dynasty League. He's a guy you should definitely monitor, though, if you're looking for a 3rd or 4th quarterback to sit on your taxi squad, or just a guy that you believe in 2024. Again, there's weapons to play with for Hall if he becomes a starter next year. Running back, DeWayne McBride. McBride's got a big opportunity here. He's got to beat out Ty Chandler and Kenny Nwangwu for that 2nd running back spot. And if he does, I think you could see him explode some weeks in, possible flex streamer. McBride is a guy that I kind of liked. Was super explosive at UAB. He got drafted in the fourth round in our rookie draft, 38th overall. I think McBride's got a big opportunity. Madison, if he doesn't become the guy, I mean, McBride could jump it. So, again, super explosive. Take a shot on him in your rookie draft. No redraft value currently, though. Wide receiver Jordan Addison, this guy that has both redraft and dynasty value coming in. He's going to be the wide receiver 2 automatically, I think, as their first-round pick. Excellent route running skills for Jordan Addison. He went in the first round, 7th overall in our rookie draft, right after my Kendre Miller pick. But I loved him to the Vikings. I think he'll fit in this offense perfectly in that possession receiver role right across the middle in the slot. And redraft, you're looking at a guy that's a wide receiver 3 with definite wide receiver 2 upside in a pass-heavy kind of offense. So I love Jordan Addison this year and in Dynasty. So that is the NFC North, y'all. Just to recap, I had the Green Bay Packers winning the NFC North 9-8. The Vikings finishing second, 8-9. Lions third at 8-9. And the Bears last at 4-13. Next Tuesday, it will be USFL Championship Week, people. We got the USFL playoffs going on this weekend. Saturday is the South Division Champion, or the North Division Championship, I believe. Sunday, South Division Championship, both in prime time, mind you. And then we got the USFL Championship next week. We will see who makes that game. Of course, we'll have all your USFL game recaps, college football, and NFL news as well. And we'll be finishing our season previews next Tuesday, talking AFC East. Maybe we'll get my boy Chris Cherry back on the show for that one. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at FAA Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, FAA_bets on Twitter. FAApodcast.com is our website. And you can also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TikTok, Football Addicts, Anon on there. Thank y'all, and we will see you for Football Friday.